The Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, The Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to The Extra Point with Ryan Justice. Week 11 came, it went, and it delivered. And we are here on a Wednesday night because I was coming back from the beatdown my Houston Texans put on the Dallas Cowboys Monday night. This is The Extra Point, everybody. Hello and welcome in. My name is Ryan Justice. I will be joined here shortly by my very bright co-host tonight, the one and only Andrew Martinez. Get some business out of the way, guys. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, whether or not you're on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. Hit the notifications. We are still working on getting to that 50 on Twitch, guys. We got some cool stuff planned. But yeah, we want to get to that Twitch affiliate status, giveaways, all sorts of cool stuff over on the Twitch. Also, guys, go check out our sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, for any tech repair needs, like it says in the intro. Gaming PCs, laptops, cell phones, tablets, you name it. If you need it repaired, Gabe can hook you up and get it taken care of for you. He can also, if you need a new one, get you taken care of as well. I want to welcome the one, the only, Andrew Martinez to the show. What's up, Andy? How's it going, sir?
How's it going this evening?
I know, it's a Wednesday night. This is the old time slot. We're kind of kicking it back on the Extra Point tonight. But, man, dude, even just in the last 48 hours following a crazy week 11, there's been a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, week 11, not only, on the field, but off the field stories. So yeah, there's a lot to go on this, I feel like week 11 was a pretty important week, for a lot of teams, either, we're in that make or break time for a lot of teams who are especially in that, in the middle of the pack kind of road. So I think, this week and next week, I think it's a lot of these are do or die.
Yeah, a lot of decisions are going to be made. And this was a big week. We had some heavyweight matchups this week. And some big time division matchups, some big time playoff and potential, seeding matchups in conferences. You watched, I think you kind of watched a team get a very big statement made to them in more than one way. We'll kick off with hot topics tonight. If I can get the banner to show. We'll kick off with hot topics, and starting off, we got the news. Daniel Jones gets benched in New York, and not only does he get benched, he's demoted all the way down. I think I got the news report today with the signing of Tim Boyle, QB4 for their $160 million quarterback in New York.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on a guy, and have him as your QB4. Again, I think it shows that we talked about the start of the season. You spent money on the wrong guy. It just shows that you thought that it's not as important to pay your running back, and we got to pay this quarterback who really hadn't done much for us yet. He's going to do it this year, and man, it's really showing you how it's really come back to bite you. This that Saquon is going to haunt the Giants for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This decision is going to be big for the Giants. And if I'm looking at this, this to me is kind of I don't want to use this word, but it's perfect for it. The death rattle of GM Joe Schoen. I mean, not only do you have not signing Saquon Barkley, you've got the Hard Knocks tape out there with him kind of just dismissing it to the owner's face. And then you have Philly signing him in division, and now he's going off. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he's within the offensive player of the year conversation in some circles.
I
At
mean,
least in
I think
yeah,
he's shown that he should. I think he's really, a Philly team that that was kind of rocky, real rocky at the end of last season, kind of rocky start. But once they started to get behind Saquon, I mean, he showed.
yeah,
Like you've said this whole year is follow where Saquon go.
yeah.
He's taking the team on his back, and they need to follow him. And man, I think I think I agree that it's just gonna it's really showing what you could have had, and you don't.
And now, the question is going to go, okay, where does Daniel Jones go after this? A lot of places are talking, hey, could it be the Raiders? They may be needing a quarterback. I mean, the Colts are looking at a new quarterback, possibly, if depending on how the rest of the season plays out with Anthony Richardson. Um, there's a lot of different places that are looking for and needing a quarterback right now. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Daniel Jones could at least go somewhere and compete, or at least go somewhere and be a serviceable backup. I think just the stain of what happened in New York really followed him, and he didn't get a fair shake, because you get reports that the players are pissed. The players are not happy that he got, not only did he get benched, but he got demoted. And even your
Mhm.
backup quarterback, you got Drew Lock sitting there saying, I thought I was going to be the guy to go in, not Tommy DeVito. And this screams Jim Mara intervention. This screams that Jim Mara is tired of being going out there and being embarrassed. And here's the thing is that they've got a defense that's playing well. Malik Neighbors has come on really well as a wide receiver. Tyron Tracy, I thought he was having a good rookie year at running back. And there's some positive pieces to this. I didn't think a complete upheaval of that offense was coming right now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of, you would think that you would make, where you're at, how much money you've spent, to make some small changes, make, maybe try something different. But yeah, to go from, to make these big of changes like you have, and even to give your guy, like Drew Lock, who's been ready to be number two the whole time, and you just go for, DeVito, it's like, man, that's saying something that we can't even give the guy who's been waiting, but in the number two spot. Oh, we're not even going to give it to him. We're going to give it
No.
to DeVito.
Yeah. And I would imagine that's a fan base move, because he was last year's Mike White, if I'm being honest. But man, yeah, I mean, we asked the question, a couple weeks ago, whether Daniel Jones had played his last snap in New York, and
Mhm.
it was, he got a couple more weeks, but ultimately that's what happened. Is Daniel Jones is out in New York. Another rumor that popped up. This popped up right before the Monday night game, and it popped up again today. But there's been rumors swirling around that Bill Belichick is interested in the Jaguars job, with the inevitable firing of Doug Peterson. Um, I would imagine that could happen. Peterson could be gone as soon as the bye week, and they could be clearing the way for Bill Belichick to come in and try to right the ship.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say without, obviously someone confirming something, but it'd be an interesting move. Again, we can see, we've seen what Bill can do, with when he has pieces, and the Jags at times can shine. Trevor Lawrence has shown that he's can be a solid quarterback. It's just the inconsistency is too strong. Maybe Belichick can right some of that, but yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a strange time if we decide to do that this late in the season.
Yeah, the thing is, well, I would imagine there was a report that come out that said, making any kind of drastic changes or anything like that with Doug Peterson or the coaching staff would basically be shuffling the chairs on the Titanic, shuffling the deck chairs on the
Mhm.
Titanic. I don't think they're going to do anything unless something drastic. I mean, they did fire Urban Meyer in season around this time last year, or a couple years ago. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did it. Here's the thing: Belichick's, he's a defensive coach. everybody has lauded a Bill Belichick defense. He knows how to coach defense. He knows how to set defenses up to succeed. And Jacksonville does not have a bad defense, especially in their front seven. You're looking at Trayvon Walker, who was a number 1 overall pick, who looked like he was starting. He's had some moments where it looked like he was starting to come along. You've got Eric Armstead. You've got Josh Hines-Allen, who you just signed. There's pieces on the offense. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne have had good years this year when healthy. You still have Evan Ingram. Lawrence, I don't know who Belichick brings in to try and get what he can out of Trevor Lawrence. I swear to God, if it's Josh McDaniels, I'm going to have to tell my son to find a new team because he's in for a world of disappointment. But I do feel like that, that's a place he could be set up well to have an impact on some guys that are talented, organized, and there's potential there for this team. I mean, before this Lions game, I sat at Buffalo's here in Amarillo with Braden and watched the Jags lose 3 last-minute games in a row to some good teams. And before they just got flat out routed by the Detroit Lions. And the talent's there. He would obviously be going, I don't know how Mac Jones would feel about Bill Belichick coming back and being under his thumb again, but he wouldn't be starting. That would fall on Trevor Lawrence because you signed Trevor Lawrence, so it's not like Belichick coming in is going to push Trevor Lawrence out. They're going to have to make it work in some capacity, but I mean, that would have to be Belichick's last hurrah, I would think. He's going to have a long leash, though.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, but it is hard, this late in the game, it's hard to how much can you right the ship this late? At that point, I feel like you're just, trying to get building blocks for, next year's potential and trying to, figure things out, in real time. But yeah, I don't know if it would save the season, obviously, but it would definitely be interesting. It would definitely someone you'd have to take very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2-9 right now. They're close to the bottom of the league in offense. In fact, they're in the bottom 4 as far as their, yards per game, overall offense, things like that. Looking for their defense right now, and they're actually they've got pieces, but they're the worst defense in the league. And I mean, Lawrence hinders you in getting some pieces right now. I think they've got one of the top 3 picks, if not the top pick in the draft. So there's going to be a lot of teams on this Shedeur Sanders lottery, whether it's New York or Jacksonville, Dallas even. But it's going to be interesting to see. Some of these coaching changes are going to be very interesting to watch. McCarthy is going to be out. I would imagine Doug Peterson's going to be out.
Yeah, I think Schefter said, this offseason, when playoffs hit, there could be anywhere from 7 to 9, coaching changes. And so, yeah, it's going to
like 12 last year.
We'll play Russian roulette again and start spinning plates and see where we can go.
Speaking of Russian roulette and seeing where we can go and the carousel being churned, yesterday they just fired the GM, Joe Douglas. They had already fired Robert Saleh. They fired Joe Douglas, and you've got reports that the team has checked out. They're just ready for the season to be over. And you also got reports that Aaron Rodgers is looking to play next year, not likely for the Jets, and the owner, Woody Johnson, is also – he wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers in week 4 after the Broncos loss, and he's pretty much saying he's moved on from Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, again, where Aaron Rodgers goes, so does fire, and he's burdened it down behind him and couldn't care less.
No.
Because he's relying on, all his old stats and can't come to terms that he's a 41-year-old man who just doesn't have it. He's, who doesn't, again, you see glimpses, you see those shines like, oh, there it is. But it is not, It is not a consistent thing. And the Jets are done. The Aaron Rodgers experiments in New York is done. They're going to have to go into a true rebuild. You're going to have to go in, get a new GM, get a new coach, get a new quarterback. It's going to be it's a tough thing for if you're Jets fans for sure, having all these high expectations and then coming up to eat a bunch of dirt.
They were talking Super Bowl, man. They were
Oh,
talking Super Bowl. Yeah, and it wasn't just Jets fans. It was ESPN. It was places like NFL Network. They were talking Super Bowl. I will say this. I hate that, the guy that drafted Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson and Braylon Edwards and all these really good pieces that helped the Jets kind of crawled out of mediocrity are kind of having to go through this because had it been any other quarterback besides Aaron Rodgers, had it had been Russell Wilson, I feel like this team would have been more competitive. The Jets fans might have gotten more of what they wanted when they thought Aaron Rodgers was coming in. And I've said this before. I'll elaborate a little bit more on buy or sell. You look at these teams that brought in and took swings at quarterback, like the Rams and the Lions, and even like the Steelers, teams that are the Bucks with Tom Brady. None of those guys really came in with a list of demands. Maybe Russ did with the Broncos, but none of those guys really came in with a list of demands like Deshaun Watson did with Cleveland or Aaron Rodgers did with the Jets. And you see how it worked out with those teams. 2 of them won Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was in the NFC Championship last year. So it's buyer beware when it comes to guys like Aaron Rodgers, who is I think he has an opt-out in his contract this year, but the Jets are going to be eating like $19 million in cap. So they're going to be hindered in what they can do. But I will say this, if I'm a quarterback getting drafted there, you're not getting drafted into a bad spot. If Adam stays, you'll have Garrett Wilson. There's pieces it's not a bad defense. And depending on who's the coach, you could be set up pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. If you get a guy like Robert Saleh, who's again obviously shown as a defensive coach, his defense was was good since he's been fired. That defense has gotten worse.
Yeah.
So but again, like you said, they're not a bad defense. They're not a bad offense. It's just the quarterback can't get it done.
No.
And he's past it. You can tell he doesn't care. Once the sad mopey Rodgers showed up, and that's all you're going to get for the rest of the year now. So it's I think we're a lot of I think like you said we're a lot of teams like, oh man, I don't really want to go there. The Jets aren't it's going to take some work, but they're not you're not going to an awful team
No.
like some choices are.
No, not at all. That'll do it, for Hot Topics, guys. Thank y'all for joining in. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And then also on Spotify, we'll have it. I know it's a little bit late, but we'll have the show on Spotify tomorrow. Go follow us there for the audio version of the Extra Point. We'll get to game reactions. Again, we said this was looking at the schedule that happened in week 11. This was a huge week 11, and we opened with Washington at Philly. In the 2 best teams in the NFC East, you've got the hottest rookie quarterback in the league coming in off of a pretty close loss to the Steelers the week before, so he's facing some adversity and the short week. And then you have a red-hot Eagles team coming in. And, man, this was the big test for me for Philly because they're up against a hot team, up against a quarterback that had been playing well, up against some weapons, some guys that really could make some things happen. And again, it was, hey, we're doing as good as Saquon Barkley is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Philly showed they're that silent assassin this year. They're 8-2 now. They're really no one's really talking about them. Most of the time when you're talking about, how Nick Sirianni is the worst coach ever. But and we talk about the pieces parts. The highlights of Saquon making these jumps and making these plays. But as a team, the Eagles are pretty quiet. in any kind of contention. And they showed, in division, like, hey, we're getting serious. We're heating up at the right time. We're taking it down the stretch. And man, they've really figured it out. And they're really starting to fire. And these division games, man, this win for them is super important. I mean, it's all these division wins are super important, especially like you said for seeding. Like, man, they really showed it.
Yeah, and this was another game where it was the Saquon Barkley show, 146
Hmm.
yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Jalen Hurts did have the rushing touchdown, but he just kind of had a mediocre day passing the ball. Both quarterbacks weren't sharp through the air. The receivers again solid, but not taking over the game like you've seen them do. And it's like you said, the Eagles are kind of this silent assassin where they are just getting it done. And the theme of this season, we go where Saquon Barkley goes. And they're going to continue to do that. And they're going to continue to make the Giants look like fools every time it happens. And on the other side, though, Jaden Daniels had a touchdown, had an interception. He took 3 sacks. Eckler was really effective in the passing game here. He had 8 catches, 89 yards. They found a way to use. They've been finding ways to use him and Brian Robinson on the field together, which I've really liked. For me, though, this is more about what this Washington defense isn't doing. Frankie Louvu had 2 sacks. You've got old ass Bobby Wagner back there. For a Dan Quinn defense that needs some playmakers, they're doing okay, but I think they're beginning to hit their ceiling as far as their potential goes without getting upgrades through the draft or through free agency.
Yeah, I think that defense is, like you said, I think that defense is definitely going to be holding back a little bit for sure. I think it showed that, that you're going to have to put pressure on these teams, especially at the highest caliber teams. You're going to have to get after them. You're going to have to make those big plays. And if that defense can't step up, then I think that's what's really going to stop them for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're allowing over 300 yards a game, over 150 on the ground, so they can't stop the run. They're having a hard time stopping the run. And they need some guys in that front 7 that can be physical. And I know stopping Saquon Barkley at this point is easier said than done, but they need guys that can stop some of these better rushing attacks that they're going to be facing. Fortunately, this week they got an easy game with Dallas coming to town. That should be almost a cakewalk for them. A get right game for the Commanders. I believe Philly is going to. Let me look it up real quick. Philly's got the mini bye. Where they at?
They got LA.
Oh yeah, they got the Sunday night game. So they're going cross country to go take on the Rams, who have been way up and down as of late. So we'll see which Rams team shows up against this Eagles team. It's going to be a good test for them. Big game in the early window on Sunday was the Steelers and the Ravens, and this came down to a 2-point conversion that was missed by the Ravens. John Harbaugh taking the risk, like he likes to do, and this Steelers defense really got after Lamar Jackson. And they limited Derrick Henry again. Again, Derrick Henry is under 100 yards rushing. He did get the touchdown, but this Steelers defense shut down the Ravens in a way that I don't think I've seen them shut down all season.
Yeah, I think that shows that Tomlin just he can get that defense going, and he just knows how to take it to the Ravens. Mike Tomlin, he just knows how to take it to that team and what Harbaugh's what Harbaugh's going to do, and he just capitalizes. And I think with I think they were able to get 2 sacks on him and an interception. Like, I think if you can stick it to him like that, if you can contain Henry like they did, and contain Lamar, like, man, it's a hard combination to beat.
Yeah, and again, this was the first game I think Tre'Davious White played with the Ravens, but there's still holes on this Ravens defense, and it's not like the Steelers' offense played well in this game. I mean, they both had under 250 yards passing. Russ had 205. Lamar had 207. The George Pickens, although he did have a good game, him and Russ have developed some really good chemistry. He's thrown some really good passes to George Pickens, who has made some spectacular catches off of it. But they couldn't, Najee Harris had, he 18 carries, 63 yards. He averaged 3.5. They did get Jaylen Warren going, and I think if the Steelers can get a 1-2 punch with this, they can get that physical brand of running that they really want, and that's what's going to help them out. Was this their first? I don't believe this was their first meeting. Or I believe it was. So I think they got one more down the line. And, the Steelers, first place in the division. I asked last week, are they contenders? Are they Super Bowl contenders? I mean, they're undefeated with Russ. So I don't see why not.
Yeah, again, I think they're also that kind of just like Philly on the other side in the NFC, like, the Steelers are being real quiet about it. They're not winning games in this spectacular fashion, but they're grinding teams out, and they're hard-nosed wins. And like, man, we thought going into this season, will Tomlin have his first losing season? And at 8-2, you're like, it ain't going to be this time.
No.
So I think, they can, they're definitely going to be in the mix in the playoffs, and this win over Baltimore, could definitely have, big repercussions. Like, just like the Commander Philly, game, like, man, this could give you the number 1 seed in the division.
Yeah. I mean, and they're in position. They're only a game back, I think, of the Chiefs right now. Them and the Bills are 2 games back, I believe. Game and a half, if you're looking at it. They're the 3 seed right now, with Buffalo as the 2 seed. And I believe that's because Buffalo hasn't had their bye yet. So, I mean, they play the Chiefs too. And they're a team, I think, they play the Chiefs the same Saturday, or they play Chiefs Christmas Day. And, the Chiefs are one that can hang one on them, I think. And they got the defense to kind of exploit the weaknesses that this Chiefs offense has. Man, if they play their dice right, you could be right. They could be looking at the number 1 seed in the AFC. So
yeah, it's a crazy thought to think, when we started the season, but man, the Steelers they're here, and they're doing it.
I did not have Steelers as the number 1 seed on my bingo card. Speaking of the number 1 seed, the 2 teams vying for the number 1 seed played in the late window in a nationally televised game. Chiefs and Bills, this game had never been decided as long as Mahomes and Josh Allen had been playing, had never been decided by more than 1 score, and the Bills get them by 9 on a run that Josh Allen just planted his flag in the middle of that Chiefs defense to seal it.
I mean, what a decision by the Bills to be like, hey, we could go for this field goal, but then we're handing it right back. We're handing it right back to Patrick Mahomes. There's too much time on the clock. You know what? We're gonna keep playing this. We're gonna, out when Josh Allen said, hey, I'm gonna take it, and just runs it, and there was nothing gonna stop him. You had to have been a freight train, and maybe then he probably still would have put that shoulder down and gone in the end zone. Man, to take that play, to take it to the Chiefs, and then obviously that game ending interception there at the end. Like, man, the Bills looked good. They figured out how to outplay Mahomes, and man, if they again. It's those 2, between Mahomes and Allen, they keep beating them in the regular season. They just have to get one in the off season now.
The playmakers are starting to show up for the Bills in a big way. James Cook had 2 touchdowns in that game, even though he didn't really run the ball a whole lot. Shakir, Samuel, Dawson Knox showed up, and of course the obvious name there is Amari Cooper, but he only had 2 catches in that game on 3 targets. And so what we're seeing is Josh Allen starting to spread this ball around. He's not having to rely on just one guy. And even though James Cook didn't have a great, a huge game, he was still impactful. So this Bills offense is becoming a more complete offense. And that is scary when you've got Josh Allen under center. And they've caused Patrick Mahomes to have another one of these 3 touchdown, 2 interception games that we've been seeing. Mahomes, I believe, has 11 on the season now as far as interceptions goes, which is one of the highest totals that he's had. And I've said it for the last few weeks that I think this Chiefs team, if a team just puts their nose down and puts their hand around the Chiefs' throat, they can get them. The Chiefs have been on the edge for the last month or so of losing games because, like we said, they don't have great offensive tackles. They're getting Pacheco back, and I think him and Kareem Hunt would make a good combination, but they've got to fix some issues on the O-line, and Mahomes just has not played well. He is having one of his worst seasons that he has had statistically through 12 weeks.
Yeah, I think, he hasn't played well. I think those injuries, those little things are slowly keeping up. And I think, you start to see that, the more he gets hit, the more he has to scramble, the more he's out there. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Where on the other side, you look at a guy like Josh Allen, who usually by this point in the season, he's had to put the team on his back. He's getting beat up real bad. I think, I think this is probably the healthiest through 10 games we've seen Josh Allen, and he doesn't look hurt. He doesn't, he isn't pushing through those injuries. And man, I think they're heading to the bye week this week. And I think this is a great time for them. And I think a healthy Josh Allen is a scary one for sure.
Yeah, especially at this point in the season where he's, not only leading the game in passing, but he's also the top rusher in that game as well. And having that dual threat with the Bills is just absolutely insane. They get the bye week this week to kind of rest up and get healthy and get guys right and just take it all in. Although the Chiefs are going to go up a game on them because they got Carolina this week. That's about as much of a gimme as you can get. But they got some work to do. I think the Chiefs, the Chiefs have some losable games coming up on their schedule with another game against Denver, who they almost lost to. You got Houston, who's going to start heating up here soon. And then you've got Pittsburgh. And I very well could see the Chiefs, and at maybe 11 and 5, maybe if they were a 4-loss Chiefs team, a 13-4 team, something like that. Because they're going to drop at least one of those games, one of those 3 upcoming games.
Yeah, I mean, especially look at that last game of the season against Denver, a team they barely beat, and the way Bo Nix looked this week. 4 touchdowns. I mean, Bo, I think he's really coming into his own, man. And so by the time we get to the end of that, I think that, they're going to be, a dangerous team for him at the end of the season. So again, it depends on how much they can stay healthy. But it's not looking, again, those last 3 games for the Chiefs are not what you want to see on your schedule.
No. And there's a good chance that they could be, there we go. Danger Dean, how's it going, sir? The Broncos are beating them when they get to Denver, showing some Denver love. Show it in the comments, guys. We want to see those. We want to see those comments and rep your team, guys. Let us know. The Broncos lost on a game-winning blocked field goal, and there's a good chance that in that last game, Denver is playing to get into the wild card. One of the buy or sell questions that because you asked a better one. One of the buy or sell questions that I had posed was, could the Chargers catch the Chiefs in the division? They're like a game because they play the Chargers too. And any one of these next 4 games of those 4 games for the Chiefs, they could lose them. And I would say at least 2 of them, whether it's Chargers, Chiefs, whether it's Chargers, Texans, Broncos, Steelers, any one of those games they can drop. This Carolina game is the easiest game they have left on their schedule. And the Chargers are barrier.
The Chargers are scary. I think, Harbaugh's really turned this team and has really gotten, he's really starting to get the most he can get out of Herbert. And again, he said that, he wants Herbert to be his last quarterback.
Mhm.
He has that much faith in the guy right now. And, that Harbaugh, mentality that he's brought to Stanford, brought to the 49ers, took to Michigan, guys just get behind that. And,
Mhm.
he has that culture behind him. And, he can get the most out of these players. And we're really starting to see this out of this Chargers team.
Speaking of the Chargers, they did play Sunday Night Football. Bit of a scare for them. They
Oof.
did give up 21 unanswered points, and I thought this game was going to go to overtime. This was, I know the Chargers ended up getting the win, but this was the Joe Burrow game.
I'm,
And I don't know what more Joe Burrow can do.
Joe Burrow is going to be the best quarterback on a losing team. He's up there in yards and touchdowns. If you look at these games and how close they were, you flip some of those numbers. Again, if instead of being 4-7, if they were 7-4, you'd be like, oh, he could he's might be in that MVP conversation, with the way his stats are looking. But man, this just nothing he can do to get it, man. It's a shame.
Him and Chase, and I would say Chase Brown are carrying this team.
Mm-hmm.
This defense minus Trey Hendrickson is not helping him out at all.
Mm-hmm.
One or two plays made by anyone in any one of those games, and we're looking at maybe a 6-5, 7-4 Bengals team with Joe Burrow right there in the MVP conversation. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you lose by 1 point to the Chiefs. You had the Chiefs on the ropes, and defense couldn't get it done. I know a lot of people are kind of harping on them for the Joe Mixon trade, but sometimes it's just, hey, guys need to part ways. I like Chase Brown. I think he could develop into a really good running back. He's had some really good flashy plays this season as a rookie. And Yoshivas, if and when T. Higgins leaves, I think Yoshivas could step up into that role and make some big plays for the Bengals. You got Joe Burrow as your quarterback, so you're gonna get, it's not like you got somebody who's a scrub back there throwing to you. You're gonna get production. It's gonna be on you. It's not gonna be on Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that has plagued the Bengals throughout this entire time that they've had Burrow is their offensive line too. They have had such a hard time protecting him. He gets sacked again 3 times.
Yeah.
And they're just not helping out their quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. You can't get hit that many times and expect to, carry it on your team. Also, I think this game also showed what, the kind of issue we're having even all over the league in this week is, man, I'm not sure what's happened with field goal kickers, but with 2 missed field goals, man, like, again,
It wasn't just this game. There was something going
no,
on.
all this week and even some of last week, it's like every kicker decided, you know what, I just can't stick them.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if it's a Ray Finkel, the laces were out. I don't, the laces need to be in. I'm not sure anymore. But yeah, we're having a hard time with kickers, this week for sure. Again, you look at Brendan Aubrey, even missed his. Like he couldn't plant his foot, and he's the most consistent guy in Jerry world.
Well, that had to have been there's some theories floating around on that one.
Yeah, I've seen
because
I've seen
yeah,
those for
because
sure.
of the what they had to do a couple days before
to get that filled in and out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, again, those 2 missed field goals, they're down by a point. You're a lot closer. But yeah, it's a hard it's hard if you're a Bengals fan because you're getting so close in these games, and man,
Not
just
happening.
can't finish it. Can't finish it.
Is it concerning that the Chargers let up 21 unanswered?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I think they have to address that in the defense. You can't again, you look at a lot of teams where, you have those comebacks and they're not able, they let off and they're not able to get the win afterwards when you let up that many points. So,
Mm.
I think that defense definitely has to tighten up. Harbaugh's really got to address that because you can't, not many games where you can have 21 unanswered and still come out the winner.
No. No, yeah, definitely. I do think that they've got it clicking though. Maybe a couple pieces, that because let's face it, Khalil Mack, Denzel Perryman, they're not getting any younger. There's gonna need to be some upgrades, I think, in the front seven for this team. Their offense is a lot better than I thought it was. And it showed in this game. Greg Roman, who, for those of you who don't kind of pay attention to like the coordinators and stuff, Greg Roman was the guy who helped Lamar Jackson arrive. And he helped guys like the two running backs that are really good for this team right now, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, get onto the scene. Dobbins had 2 touchdowns. Edwards was averaging 4.5 a carry. I know Herbert had the leading in rush yards in this game on a couple of on some scrambles. But he's also really helped Ladd McConkey show up for this team and become the bona fide number one guy for Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. And another thing I've been liking about Harbaugh too is they gave him this guy who has been healthy. He's been productive. He goes out and Will Dissly was in there too at tight end, but they aren't. I know Herbert threw 36 times, and that was probably because he had to go in there and duel with Joe Burrow. But overall, they haven't really been asking Herbert to go out there and put on the Superman cape. And I think that has really helped Justin Herbert. That and guys staying healthy. And it's just been a real significant turnaround for this team.
Yeah, and again, if you look at the Chargers and you see their losses, I think they have, both the Chiefs and the Cardinals loss are, a one possession game, so I think, it's not like they're getting blown out. So
no, and they held the Chiefs to 17 points. The one possession game where they held the Chiefs to 17 points, and that was early enough in the season to where they were still trying to figure things out. They were still trying to get some things to come together for this team. And man, I think another year, another draft, and they really could push the Chiefs for this division.
I think so.
So now I kind of have been waiting on this one. I was in attendance for this. This is the reason why we're doing this on Wednesday night instead of Tuesday night. Texans and the Cowboys, baby. I did have some stuff posted for. I'm not gonna lie. I was on my stuff for this game. Man. First off, I want to say this before we even get to the game, the actual game itself. I never thought, I've worked with the NFL on Fox for I think it's my 5th or 6th season doing it. And I'm ashamed to say that I've been to more Cowboys games than Texans games. But even when it hasn't been a pretty matchup for the Cowboys for or against, the fans showed up for this team. You weren't sitting there looking at this team like you would have the Texans 3 years ago, or you would have some of the worst, like the Panthers now, where you can't get anybody to buy a ticket. And I mean, speaking of, I'm a little mad because 10 sections over from where we were sitting for this game, tickets are $25 for Cowboys Giants on Thanksgiving. $25, less than the standing room tickets. And that's what it says. And I thought, I knew there was going to be a significant amount of Texans fans there. There always is when it's Texans Cowboys. It happens when it's down at NRG too. I did not think they would just come in and flat out take over the stadium the way that they did. There were plenty of spots in that stadium where those white towels that they drape over the back of those seats for every game had not been touched. There were plenty of times where they tried to get people to wave those rally towels, to get those rally towels going, to get the Cowboys fans going. And there was maybe sporadic places where that would be done. Whereas before it was a wave of white towels being rallied. And the ones that were doing it weren't doing it with a whole lot of enthusiasm. And I really feel like that's if that doesn't stand out to Jerry Jones, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the play on the field was absolutely atrocious too.
Yeah, I mean that's again, it for Jerry. We've seen it, so far. I mean that's kind of been the main story this year, right? He doesn't really care about what's on the field. He cares
He
about
says he does.
I mean, yeah, he does, but he doesn't. Again, if he did, then he would make better decisions on the field. He cares about being the number one brand in football. Being able to sell tickets no matter what. But you want to see some change. That's where you hit Jerry Jones. Is you quit showing up. You
Yep.
quit showing up. You quit supporting the team, and all of a sudden sales start to go down. Then oh man, then he'll wake up and be like, I got to make some changes.
Andy, third down sounded like we were in NRG Stadium.
Golly.
Dude, like they were louder on third down for the Texans. That stadium was it was funny because they finally stopped showing the get loud decibel meter because they couldn't break 100 decibels. They couldn't. They barely could break at least when it was for the Cowboys. On third downs, the Texans fans just overpowered the Cowboys fans. They had to go to silent count a couple times.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew because I went to a couple of the Texans meetups that they did before the game. And they were just taking over spots kind of all around Arlington, man. And it was just they were showing up for the Texans fans. So, man, all of that plus what happened with the roof, I was excited. I didn't go in there expecting that they were actually going to look at opening the roof, especially because it was going to get cold that night. And then you hear, just a microcosm of everything that happens. They try to open up the roof to get some fan excitement, and a big piece of sheet metal falls off the top of the roof.
2 of them.
Yeah. And they had to get somebody. I would hate to have been the guy up there in the girders bolting that thing down.
Jerry made the comment a couple weeks ago. I was like, what do you want me to do? Just build a whole new stadium? I mean, looks like maybe you do. I don't know. Man, but yeah, it's I mean, what just to as we get into the game, like man, what a dominant showing for the Texans, man. They just showed that they are the team of Texas right now, and that's they showed you what they're all about, and they looked great.
I still have my reservations.
Sure,
there's still things about this team that I would like to see fixed. The line got better, but you were playing against one of the worst defensive lines in the league. The defense for the Texans is elite. That is a championship defense on that side. And that was without Kamari Lassiter and Will Anderson. If they would have had Lassiter in that game, this would have been 41-3. And Lassiter in that game and the Nico Collins, Laramie Tunsil wasn't being a bonehead and stayed in his spot. I get on those RPO screens. They're a little dicey sometimes. But I will say this, there were very few mistakes made in this game. And I liked the fact that the Texans have 3, maybe 4, what you would call easy games coming up. I want to use those as get right games, confidence building games. Games where we can see progress in the places that the Texans needed to see progress in. The defense, because they've been leaning on the defense a lot. I wasn't happy that Stroud didn't throw a touchdown in this game. I was happy to see the impact Nico Collins had in this game. And much like Saquon Barkley, this team is going to go where Joe Mixon goes. And especially if Joe Mixon is healthy. That worries me because behind Joe Mixon is not really anybody, because Dameon Pierce had 1 carry in this game. He got stuffed and they yanked him. So as dominant as the Texans were, I'm not going to, I'm not going to ignore the fact that there are still some things that this team needs to get right. And they've got 2 really great opportunities coming up to do so before the bye. But yes, I very much enjoyed the win. I very much enjoyed watching the Cowboys just absolutely melt and fall apart. Because it's been coming. It's been coming for a while. And even when they were going 12-5, I've said they have played like a team that is at the end of their rope. They've played like a team that needs a severe rebuild coming. And any coach, if they get Dion or Belichick, that is exactly what they are going to tell them. We need a 2 to 3 year rebuild for this team.
Mm-hmm.
We're stuck with CD and Dak. Parsons is probably going to be moved. I've read, one of the few things I've agreed with Colin Cowherd on, Parsons needs to be moved because you're not going to be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't afford Derrick Henry. You're definitely not going to be able to afford Micah Parsons.
No.
But as far as the Cowboys offense goes, Cooper Rush. I'm not a fan of Cooper Rush throwing the ball 55 times. 5 sacks. They just could not get it going. CeeDee Lamb had some big plays, but ultimately this Texans team they shut down this offense, and there's no life. They quit. They quit on the
Mm-hmm.
team. A lot of guys on that offense and on that defense just flat out quit, man.
Yeah, I think I think Dallas is they're just done. I think it's a race to see who can get the number 1 pick at this point with these guys.
They're 9th right now. They're better than like Jacksonville and Tennessee. I'll say that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's this, are they going to keep playing hard, or are they just going to coast and, whatever happens. Again, people have made the joke that, again, Logan Paul has one more win in Dallas than the Cowboys do.
No. And the best one I saw was when Zeke got a carry. Zeke got a touch. I said, hey, it's the second most washed up athlete to get to play in AT&T Stadium this weekend.
Brutal.
Oh, it was bad,
not wrong,
man.
But brutal.
It was bad, man. Just some of the stuff that was being said about those Cowboys, man. And then the fans were taking L's in the stands too, because some dudes were starting to point up at the banners, and they're like, "Yeah, that was ancient history." they were giving it to them, man. Mm-hmm. Cowboys have the Commanders, Texans have the Titans. So we'll see how this goes, and then they go to we got Thanksgiving. Cowboys have a short week for Thanksgiving against the Giants, where you can get tickets for $25. Yeah, especially compared to what I paid for them in the same area. Yeah, not happy about that. But that'll do it for game reactions. Let's get into 3 up and 3 down. First up on the up list, got to give him his props. Tua Tagovailoa, 26-36, 288 yards. Again, I know it was against the Raiders, but Tua continues to shake off the rust from the concussions. He's got Miami back in this. I know that you want to see some of their stars kind of shine a little bit brighter, but Tua's been the guy who has been stirring the drink for this Miami team and keeping them relevant, and keeping them, hey, Miami isn't out of this yet with Tua. They got some work to do, but Miami is not out of it yet. They're the 9th seed right now, and I feel like they can do something to jump the Indianapolis Colts. They're not getting anywhere close to the division, but they're in 2nd place right now and in good spots, and it's because of Tua.
Yeah, I think, with Tua back, I think, as you've kind of seen, the way the Dolphins have played have changed. They're not just relying on trying to make big explosive plays every single time. They're making more solid drives, more consistent drives in the way they're playing. So I think that's going to end up obviously be more successful for them as they try to make this run towards the playoffs now in this back half of the season. So I think, with Tua getting it, maybe he doesn't have to make all these crazy dynamic things and put himself out there in crazy situations. I think, if they can make good, consistent drives, man, they have a chance.
I think they need, they started to get Devin Achane back in, Tyreek. We've heard he's been playing with the wrist injury. He had 7 catches in this game. Jonnu Smith was the guy that really took over. And again, Tua's just relying on his playmakers, man. And that gets him on the up list, and hopefully he can keep it going. The Dolphins, they got some work to do to get into the wild card conversation. But it's not impossible. There's teams in way worse positions, and they have a really good quarterback. New England comes to town. Your 7-point favorites. Definitely see Tua having another really good game. Next up on the up list, we just talked about this game. Joe Mixon, 20 carries, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has 44 more through the air for 153 total. And again, Joe Mixon is the guy that this Texans team has been leaning on all season long.
Yeah, I think Mixon really showed, man, he just, if you give him the ball, he's going to make those plays. He made great explosive plays. And he's that much of a threat. Again, I think like you said, you just got to be careful that he doesn't nothing happens to him and he stays healthy. But yeah, I mean, he showed that he can. You hand the ball, he's gonna make it. He's gonna make a difference.
Some people are saying, he's kind of for the Texans, he's looking like a poor man's Adrian Peterson. For
Mm-hmm.
for his 8th year in the league, and he's
Mm-hmm.
on a 3-year contract, he has looked phenomenal. And I know I said I worry about the depth behind him, but Joe Mixon's been pretty durable throughout his career. The only reason he missed games was because of a banned tackle. But yeah, Joe Mixon, man, I mean, can't say enough about him. He has been, if the Texans offense is has a chance to really, really have an opportunity to get right, it's going to be done through Joe Mixon. Top of the mountain this week, though, we talked about it earlier, has to go to Josh Allen. To do what he did and put the team on his back and have a stat line that long and do it against an undefeated team, man, it's got to be Josh Allen as the MVP for me.
I think so. I think he's really shown that, man, that they want it. They want it real bad, and he's going to do whatever he has to make that happen. And he's playing smart. He's making the big plays when he needs to. But yeah, I mean, he killed it. He showed that, hey, if we can we can take it to two teams. We can make it happen.
If there's a moment where you say, okay, that's where he won the MVP, it's going to be that game-winning touchdown run.
Absolutely.
Against the Chiefs. It's going to be that. But yeah, I mean, there was just no way I couldn't put him there after the way that he played and the fact that he is just. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad that the Texans aren't playing him with him being like this now, and we got him early in the season. But I saw that and I go, man, if that's the Josh Allen we're going to get going into the playoffs, we could be looking at the Super Bowl team from the AFC this year. So, well, we went 3 up. We're going to go 3 down. And the first up on the down list, man, the Atlanta Falcons. What happened? I thought this would be a close game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all did. I don't think we expected the result
Broncos,
of,
man.
Yeah, we don't think we expected, a 4-touchdown game from, Bo Nix and, and only 2 field goals from the Falcons. So I think, I don't think we expected, them to dominate the way they did.
Man, got to hand it to Sean Payton. He's got this offense clicking. Cortland Sutton, Devon Bell, Jordan Humphrey, but most importantly, Bo Nix. And he's got the defense right. And they absolutely, this thing is like, it's not like Atlanta is a bad team. Atlanta is not necessarily like world beaters, but Bijan Robinson is really good, and he's having a really good season. You hold him to under 3 yards a carry. Drake London, only 3 catches out of 7 targets. Ray McLeod, he caught all 6 of his. Darnell Mooney, who has been having a really good season, he was held in check. And Sean Payton is putting together a complete team. Given the contract situation they're in from Russell Wilson, I don't think it could have gone any better. As far as the Falcons go, I believe this is 2 in a row that they have lost that they shouldn't have, because they lost to the Saints the week before. And almost an embarrassing fashion too, where the Saints just kind of came alive on them. And I'm thinking that they're in some trouble. The steam is starting to run out for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I think so. I think all that momentum they had, at the start of the season, I think it's starting to look like maybe we've peaked, and here we're already on the downhill side of that. And I think with them, their next couple games, what they have the Chargers, and then the Vikings, and so those aren't going to be walks in the park for them. They're not going to be
Definitely
easy
not.
Get right games to kind of reset. So.
And the Vikings, the Vikings one could be a very important when it comes to the wild card, if that's where they.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think, I think they're definitely in trouble for sure.
You mentioned it earlier in the show, but on the down list, man, this weekend, field goal kicking. Jake Elliott on Thursday. How many missed field goals? Justin Tucker. I mean, Justin Tucker is done. I mean, he's looking like he's washed. I think even Evan McPherson on Sunday night missed one. I was sitting there going, "What is happening? Why we always have one of those just weird weekends in the NFL where nobody can make a kick?" I guess it happened in Week 11.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just it seemed like everyone couldn't kick. Yeah, and it's like the week before you have a couple of these where that's what won them games.
Yep.
Just right on the inside, kissing the post. Cool, they won. This week, I mean, missing broadside the barn, man.
Getting blocked. Second week in a row, we've had a block.
Yeah, it's a weird time to be a field goal kicker this week for sure.
Yeah, you're kind of on edge a little bit. I tried to look for another nominee for the Factory of Sadness this week. I really did. It had to go to Dallas, man. It had to go to the Dallas Cowboys. I know we were talking about it earlier, but just from the stadium falling apart to the fans not showing up, starting to not show up, to the way the team is playing on the field, to their roster situation, to what's going to happen with the team, to now you got all the crazy rumors flying around about Deion Sanders and Bill Belichick. Like, it's just, it's collapsing in, it's spiraling for these Dallas Cowboys right now. And it culminated this week when the Texans just handed it to them.
Yeah, I think so. I think with all the woes they've had every week, with new things happening, it seems like every week, they're just run themselves into a wall. And, this is definitely the culmination of it. Your roof's falling apart, the team's falling apart. The only thing you didn't let them score 52 points on you like the Jags did. Like, that's about the only thing you can say that you did a little bit better. But other than that, it's just, it's the whole functionality with, Dak getting hurt, and it's just everything's coming apart at the seams for the Cowboys.
This is probably the ultimate dagger in this that wasn't shown on TV. Their halftime show was a celebration of the generations of Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. And there was some of those Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders from like the 60s and 70s that were putting in way more effort to that halftime show than the entire Dallas Cowboys team. That halftime show was for the Dallas Cowboys, that halftime show was the best part of the entire game. Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
That's the way things are in Dallas right now. That'll do it for 3 Up, 3 Down, guys. Again, hey, check out our sponsors. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Whether or not you're on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you guys are, go check out my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock, for all of your laptop needs. And if you want to hear the audio version of it, we are dropping the Spotify version of this tomorrow. With that, we're going to go to buy or sell. Guys, sound off in the comments with us whether or not you are buying or selling some of these takes we're throwing at you. We mentioned him earlier. We mentioned him a little bit earlier in the 3 Up and 3 Down, but I think it's really time to start having this conversation. Buy or sell Bo Nix for Rookie of the Year?
Man, it's hard. I think I'm selling on it, but man, he's definitely making that argument, right? I think if maybe if he in the beginning we saw it took him a little longer to kind of get his feet underneath him than some others, but
tell Cowboys.
But yeah, I think Bo Nix. I don't know if he's. I think I'm going to sell a little bit on that, but I mean, he's definitely, especially how we see how the back half of this season goes. He could definitely be up there.
I'm buying because I feel like we saw Bo Nix kind of become the baby giraffe that learned to walk. He had some really interesting, he had some real up and down rocky beginning of the year games. But as the season went on, as he started, developing under Sean Payton, as this team started coming together, Bo Nix has put together some really good games in these last few weeks. I'm looking, let me see. I don't know if they're on. No, they're not on bye right now. They play Vegas this week, which could be another big game. If you have Bo Nix on fantasy, might be a good game to play him. But he has developed some really good chemistry with this team. 65% completion percentage. He's played in all 11 games, 20 or almost 2,300 yards. He's averaging about 200 yards a game, 14 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. So he's taking care of the ball. And I know some people, like my buddy Kevin here. I know some people are talking about Jaden Daniels Rookie of the Year, but it feels like Bo Nix is starting to peak as Jaden Daniels is starting to come down. I know he's got the kind of the layup game against the Cowboys this week, but Bo Nix I feel like has had a harder schedule than Jaden Daniels has, and more to prove.
Yeah, I mean those are my top two guys for sure. I think, with Jaden coming out so hot like the way he did, I think he's definitely up there in that conversation. And again, like you said, he's kind of tapered a little bit the last couple of weeks. So if he can get hot and going again, sure. But again, if Bo Nix continues on the rise, he can just surpass that. He's already passed him in touchdowns, I think. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be a close one for sure.
I think they're definitely Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels so far are the two best quarterbacks in this rookie class by far. Buy or sell again. We talked about Belichick coming in, but no matter who the coach is, buy or sell, the Jags are moving on from Trevor Lawrence.
I'm gonna sell. I think they're just gonna, I think they're gonna stick with him. I think they spent a lot of money. I think they're just gonna, I think they've kind of planted that flag, and they're gonna run with it until the wheels fall off. And unfortunately for him, it may be sooner than he may want. But I have a feeling they're gonna stick with him.
This one's actually tough for me. This one's actually pretty tough because we've seen we're watching the Giants move on from a big contract with Daniel Jones, who by all accounts has been severely disappointing in New York. Some people are saying the same things about Trevor Lawrence. We watched the Broncos move on from a big contract with Russell Wilson last year. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can buy a new coach coming in. If Shad Khan gets the sense about him to finally fire Trent Baalke, I could see a new GM, a new coach coming in and saying, okay, taking, kind of checking the surroundings and saying, we're in position to get Shedeur Sanders or, another, I think the other one is Carson Beck coming out. We're in position to get one of these top quarterbacks coming into the draft. What can we get for Trevor Lawrence? Or if we're going to tank another year, if we need another year for the rebuild, how can we position ourselves to get someone like Arch Manning? And I could see a new if Trent Baalke is gone, and the new coach, the new GM and coach agree on this. I could buy Jags moving on from Trevor Lawrence. This is the one you posed. Buy or sell? Can the Chiefs hang on to the number 1 seed in the AFC?
I'll
take this one first. I buy it because I think it's just a matter of running out the clock. Buffalo's getting a bye week. I think, obviously some people want the late bye week, but the Chiefs are playing Carolina, and that's going to put them, I think, half a game up on Buffalo, and the Chiefs have already had their bye. So I think they can hang on to it by pretty much winning the games that they need to win and running out the clock on Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy also. I think the same kind of thing. I think they're gonna be able, the way they've been playing, they've been able to kind of hold off, anyone kind of nipping at their heels. They've been winning, besides this game where Buffalo took it to them, they've been winning the games that they need to. So they have Carolina, then they have Las Vegas, next. So I think those games they're going to win those. Obviously against, I think they're playing Cleveland. So like I said, the games they need to win, I think they will, and I think that's going to probably keep them, competitive enough to hold on to that spot. But I think if they hold on to it, it's going to be a game, half a game. It's going to be a real close by the skin of their teeth, holding on to that number 1 seed.
I said this beginning of the year, and I mainly said it in reference to the Texans, but I think for the AFC, it's going to be for anything. This stretch of games that is going to happen over Christmas. This stretch of games where you've got the Chiefs playing the Steelers, the Ravens playing the Texans. I think that stretch of games is going to be what determines the number one seed in the AFC, especially if the Chiefs drop one or two more. And you've got the Steelers right there with them. The Bills are right there with them. Baltimore gets right. I believe they've got one more game against Pittsburgh. They could be, if they flip the script at home against Pittsburgh. I believe their next game is at M&T Bank. They could be right there for the number one seed. So it's still very much up for grabs. But I'm gonna buy like I said, I feel like the Chiefs can run out the clock on this. So the other one that you posed, we talked about it earlier, at the beginning of the show. Will another team take a chance on Aaron Rodgers? It's been, said he is leaving the New York Jets more than likely at the end of the year. You've already had the owner wanted to bench him. It was a messy exit from Green Bay. It was a messy entry and exit from New York. I'll let you take this one. Buy or sell. Another team will take a chance on Aaron Rodgers.
For me, I want to say sell because how much scorched earth he has behind him. But I just think that people are so nostalgic for what he could do and what he was that, I think a team's going to buy him. An owner like Jerry Jones, who has that, we want the spectacle, behind us. We want the superstar. We want this. I'm going to buy that. Some team will take a chance on him, unfortunately, and end up much worse for it. But honestly, I hope that no one would, but I have a feeling that someone will.
Optimistically, I would say I would hope that no one would either. But Aaron Rodgers is such a good salesman. He says he wants to play another year. I can't think of another team that would want to have him. I can't see him going to a team like the Raiders where Tom Brady is part owner and having him and Brady clash. I can't really think of a team that could use him in the way that he would want to be used, or at least that could seriously benefit from him. Maybe he could stay in the same stadium and go to the Giants. If Joe Shane stays and he's convinced that Saquon Barkley isn't your guy, Aaron Rodgers could very easily convince him that he is, and convince Jim Mara. We'll see once the offseason really starts to play out a little more. Anything's possible. Some team's going to bite, but I feel like Aaron Rodgers is hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I totally agree. I think it's just a time that he's just shown that every, with everything he touches comes too much drama, scorched earth, just seems to follow him, and it's just not worth it.
That'll do it for buy or sell. We're going to go ahead and get into our game previews. The lines with this are brought to you by ESPN Bet. They're based off of ESPN Bet. We open up Thursday night, tomorrow night, with the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Cleveland for a division game. Cleveland is a mess right now. And, they've had some decent moments with Jameis Winston. But Pittsburgh is on an absolute roll right now. And the over-under being only 36 points tells me that Pittsburgh's not going to need to score much to beat them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, for me, I think the Steelers are just, they're too good of a team right now. They're going to take it to the Browns. The Browns aren't good right now. They're so lost in, they don't know what they are. They're just a team who's hanging out. All their dreams have been shattered, by really bad deals and not, and
deals that never came to be.
Yeah, for a team that had such a great defense last year, and to we kind of had high hopes for them, but yeah, it's just shown that it's just another year in Cleveland.
Yep. So I think it's safe to say on that one, me and you both have the Steelers on this. Yep. So yeah, the and this will be a nice division win for the Steelers, especially on a week where you got the Baltimore Ravens playing the Chargers in a game where if they drop, this could be big. This could be a nice win for the
Mhm.
Steelers. So, you know, a game where that we kind of already know the outcome of it, but has some implications. We go from the AFC North to the NFC North. Vikings go to Chicago, who were a blocked field goal away from upsetting the Packers. I'll say this. I think I'm not going to completely write out Chicago here because the changes that they made in the offensive coaching staff looked like they worked. Looked like they had some improvement. DeAndre Swift showed up on the injury report today as questionable, so that might that could make a difference. But Caleb Williams under this new offensive staff did look like he had improved, and Minnesota with Sam Darnold. Darnold has shown some shakiness over the last few weeks. I feel like if the Bears played this week the way that they played against Green Bay, they could pull the upset, maybe. But there's a lot of ifs surrounding the Bears.
Yeah, I think with the Bears, they're just, again, still so inconsistent with how they play. Everything they bring. I just don't know if they have that consistency, especially as we switch to a newer type of offense, trying to get that going. And I just don't know if they have it against this Minnesota team that their last couple wins haven't been against great teams, but they got 3 wins in a row, and I think they're going to carry that momentum with them. And I'm definitely going with the Vikings on
Yeah,
this guy.
yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings too. I feel like they got a better defense. A defense that definitely can get in and get after Caleb Williams and do kind of what the Texans did to him and just beat him up. And that's kind of what teams have been able to do because the Bears do not have a great offensive line. So guys like Jonathan Grenard, I think, could end up feasting in this game.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked much about your team in this show, but we do have them in the afternoon slate. The big game for the afternoon slate, San Francisco going to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers, who, like we said, only won because of a blocked field goal in Chicago.
Yeah, especially with we're just having real tough losses in that fourth quarter, man. We just can't hold a lead. We're dropping it. This game against Seattle is a tough one. Geno Smith made that run and got it in there, and it's definitely our fourth quarter defense is hard. Especially when Nick Bosa is out of the game, it's hard to keep that going. He's a huge part of that. If he's playing or not playing, can be the difference maker on our defense right now. So I think that's going to be a huge part of it.
What are your thoughts on McCaffrey since he's come back?
Man, I think it's I kind of expected this kind of start for him. I didn't expect him to be putting up huge numbers in these first few games as he makes his comeback. I was hoping he'd make more of an impact than he has. But I get it. You've been out for most the whole season so far. So it's I wish he things would pick up quicker, but hopefully we can get some of that under him and get him the ball more and make that running game that dual threat scary again.
Yeah, you're sticking with your Niners in this one. I got the Packers, but I feel like it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. One or two plays could really tip this game. Over under at 48.5, so it's got both teams scoring about 24 points. Which actually or 47.5. I'm sorry. I was looking at the next one. Which to me might be high for this game because I feel like both defenses are going to end up having good games. It's going to come down to who can get going, whether it's Jacobs or McCaffrey. And I feel like Jacobs has just been the hotter running back. In the league. In the McCaffrey's still coming back. So we'll move on. The Sunday night game shows Philly going out to LA. LA getting the win this past week. Philly, of course, dueling it out with the Commanders and kind of putting the young guys in their place. Philly 3-point favorites in this game. This could go a long way in determining, where Philly lands in the NFC. Of course, it's never really a home game for a Los Angeles team. Where do you got what are you looking for in Philly versus LA?
I think, Phillies, like I said, they're really getting it. They're really on their game. They got Barkley. Jalen Hurts is, really kind of, a lot of the mistakes we were seeing early in the season, he's brought that back. He's played more consistently. He's definitely picked it up where he needs to. But man, you can't. That McVay offense is hard. They can play upset real quick. And I think that's, for me, that's the dynamic of the Rams, is that they really when they're on, they are on fire. And Matthew Stafford's looking great. He makes the big plays. He just has to play more consistently. And I think they can, I think I picked them in the upset for this game. I think they're going to maybe come out and surprise Philadelphia.
I think they'll give Philly a good test. Again, it's going to come down to their ability to stop Saquon Barkley, but don't count out what AJ Brown and Devontae Smith can do. Philly still has a great offensive line. I know you're up against the boy wonder Sean McVay, but Philly has so much momentum now, and they need to start racking up these wins against teams that have ways to beat them. And I like Philly in this moment. I think they're getting hot at the right time. And this could be one of those games where they start putting nails in the coffin to lock up the division and improve their positioning in the NFC. The big one on Monday night, we finish off Week 12 with the Baltimore Ravens going to the Los Angeles Chargers. This could go a long way in determining where the wild card winds up. I think if Baltimore drops one more game, they're in trouble in the wild card situation in the AFC. It's another home game, so the LA field staff is going to be up all night getting this field ready for the LA Chargers. Harbaugh versus Harbaugh on Monday night. How about that?
Anytime they've played against each other, they've always, I've always liked the Harbaugh games. Anytime when he was with San Francisco, we'd play Baltimore, especially in the Super Bowl. We just couldn't beat them, which is unfortunate. But they were always close games. You had, obviously the brothers, they know each other, their mentalities, and they just go after each other. And I think with the momentum that the Chargers have right now, with Herbert really feeling it, really coming to his own this year under Jim, I think, man, I think they can really take it to Baltimore, as long as that defense can, like we said, tighten up. If they can contain, if they can contain that running game, contain Henry, contain Lamar, I think they can really hold it against them and take it to them.
Baltimore's going up against their old offensive coordinator with holes on their defense. You could tell they're really missing Patrick Queen. And I know they got Tre'Davious White, but they're not really great at rushing the passer. And the Chargers have a better defense, I think. Is that defense going to be able to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? I don't know, because I don't think I'm not confident in that. This is going to come down to the offenses. Vegas thinks so too, which is why the over-under is at 50. But it's going to come down to who's making more plays. And the Chargers held off the Bengals last week. I feel like if they can get Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry contained, which I know is easier said than done, but it's a little easier when you've got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on that front seven, they can make enough plays to where I feel like they can exploit these holes, especially with Greg Roman, who knows that defense so well. They can exploit these holes in that Ravens offense or in the defense, where they have kind of come back down to earth a little bit and pull a win out on Monday night. You and I both have the Chargers in this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real, I have a feeling it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
Again, I think that 3 points is pretty accurate for how close this game can be, for sure. I think it's good. I think it's going to be a real good one for Monday.
That'll do it for our Week 12 previews. Those are the big games in Week 12. And if you want to bet on them, ESPN Bets got your lines and over-unders and everything right there. Speaking of betting, we're going to get to the extra picks, where this is done via Prize Picks. If you have not done Prize Picks, this is where you can pick over or under a certain player is going to do what they're going to do in the games. You can win money. They've got some free squares going on right now that are paying out multiples of what you put in. But get out to Prize Picks where you can. These are my picks for this week. I got Will Levis for Tennessee under 196.5 passing yards. He is up against a Texans defense that is getting back Kamari Laster and Will Anderson, along with this will be the first time that the Texans have had a fully healthy front seven minus Christian Harris.
Yeah, I think I think he's averaging, under that. So with a tough defense, like this, I think that's a pretty solid pick, man, to be under that number.
He's been getting going this season on the ground. I'd like Aaron Jones over 62.5 rushing yards. The Chicago defense looks tired. They've had some good moments, but this Chicago defense has not been playing as physical as I think they need to be playing. And Aaron Jones is the type of back that can just run them down and start picking up yards in chunks at the end of games.
Yeah, I think so. If that Chicago defense can hold up, give him the ball, and yeah, like I said, he's going to just eat up yardage the entire time.
Picked him last week, but I'm going to pick him again this week because it's probably one of the easiest picks you're going to pick up. Terry McLaurin against the Dallas Cowboys, over 59.5 rushing yards. Mash that one if you guys are going to be putting some money down on these games.
Yeah, I think with Dallas's defense the way it is, absolutely, for sure.
Well, that's going to do it for the Extra Point tonight, guys. Again, thank you to our sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Thank you, Gabe. If you guys need laptop, PC, cell phone, tablet repairs, go to Gabe at the Phone Medic. He will get you taken care of. He does really good work there. Again, guys, like, share, subscribe. We'll have the audio version up on Spotify tomorrow. But, guys, that'll do it for us. Enjoy Week 12 in the NFL as we get started on Thursday night with Pittsburgh at Cleveland. For you Steelers fans, this should be a good night, a good way to start the week off for you guys going into that mini bye. Until then, for Andy, I'm Ryan. This has been the Extra Point. Goodbye and good night.